only on DAZN.
Normally, in a fight at this size, you would know 12 weeks that you're fighting Canelo Alvarez. One thing through this pandemic, I think if you stay fit and you don't balloon in weight, I think shorter camps are more effective for fighters. And I think quite a few people have found that. You know, some people do 12-week camps. I think people have been doing more 6 to 8 week camps, and I think that they're fresher going into the fight. So the one thing that fascinates me about Callum is so relaxed. Yeah. So relaxed, honestly. Like when we made the fight out here, and I think sometimes you fight someone like Canelo or you fight someone like Triple G and you're kind of like overawed. Like Rocky Fielding was like, he just totally overawed with the occasion. Got in there and just, you know. But Callum won't do that, and the difference is Callum's going to try and win. And he's going to try and win by knocking. Not by being reckless, but by taking his chances when they present themselves. And he will let his hands go at the times that he thinks is the right time to let his hands go, which could be dangerous as well. Yeah. But that's why you'll get such a great fight, because trust me, he ain't coming to survive or try and steal the fight. He knows I have to hurt him and I have to take my chances when they're there.
You know, it's a tough question to the promoter. Do you feel that Callum Smith has to fight?
No, because I think the judges are solid. I mean, Steve Weisfeld, these guys, they're very good judges. And I don't think, you know, you're always at a disadvantage at the start of the fight because you're fighting Canelo Alvarez. And I know we're not in Mexico, but we're not far. Yeah. You know, and it's going to be a great atmosphere, even with 12,000 there on Saturday. So I think he's got to do more than he would have to do if the fight was in the UK. And he's not thinking, I have to knock him out to win, but he's thinking, I need to win well. But he definitely, Joe said more, he's going for the knockout. But Callum's saying, I'm not, I'm just, you know, I want to win well, but I will be trying to knock him out. And that's something that in Canelo's last 2 fights, three fights actually, none of his opposition have really tried to do. Jacobs never tried to knock him out, really, because he was fucked at the weight. Kovalev never really tried to knock him out, did he? I mean, he didn't really go in there and let his hands go. I know, because it's easier said than done.
But it was a close fight, even still.
It was a close fight, he was behind. And by the way, Canelo has to let his hands go faster in this fight, I think, than he did in the Kovalev fight, because he can't afford to give Callum that kind of time, that kind of distance, that kind of space in this fight. I think if I was Canelo Alvarez, I'd be looking to box Callum Smith like I boxed Rocky Fielding, which was to come on the front foot, to walk him down and try and be aggressive early. But that's also very dangerous against someone that can punch very hard.
You think Canelo took that he agreed to fight Callum Smith now because maybe he's catching him on short, or he thinks maybe he's catching him on short?
I think he could have boxed Yildirim, he could have boxed probably, I don't know, Plant. He had a lot of offers to fight various people, but he wanted to fight Callum Smith because he's #1 at 168. He's got the Ring Magazine belt, and he thought, I believe I can beat him. And I believe it's a statement. When you look, in 2019, he boxed Danny Jacobs for his world middleweight title. Then he boxed Kovalev for his world light heavyweight title. And the next fight, he's fighting Callum Smith for his super middleweight world title. I mean, it's a great run.
No, absolutely.
I know.
He said, Joe Saunders said, for the week when he fought Martin Murray, that no one came to him about fighting Canelo this time.
Yeah, well, he ruled himself out publicly.
Summer, right?
No, well, same. I mean, in September.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, and then we put the Murray fight together. But he made it quite clear that he wouldn't take less than what he wanted for the fight, even in the pandemic. So it was never even worth discussing. But the deal was done with Billy Joe Saunders to fight in Cinco de Mayo.
No, of course.
Yeah, I mean, he flew over for the press conference.
Yeah.
It was that close. So, but it was never, the amount of money available, he wouldn't have taken the fight. So it was never even a discussion.
Did Callum get close to what he was offered?
Yeah. Well,
Before, I mean.
Callum Smith came down to get the fight initially. This was at Cinco de Mayo. And then again slightly, I think for September, he got pretty much what he wanted, but it was less than what Billy Joe wanted.
So Eddie, earlier you mentioned that you noticed that fight camps don't need to be necessarily as long during the pandemic. What else have you learned from these different times that maybe you keep going forward?
Having fighters in a bubble earlier and getting the media. Like I felt like if you've got a fighter here, it's a lot easier to get access to them, right? So like today, I know we've got less media here, but you had your time with Canelo and Callum Smith, and normally in the wild, circus, you might not get time, or fighters are stuck in here, so they actually don't mind doing things during the week. So we get more access to them. The broadcaster gets more access to them. Production-wise, I've really enjoyed the noise, of the punches landed, the noise of the corners interacting. I think for me that's probably the main things, is just getting more access to the fighters. I've actually enjoyed doing the press conferences like we did today for each individual fight, rather than getting 20 people sitting up at a table or asleep or on their phone. You can just get two guys interacting, and then loads of stuff we've learned, loads of stuff, and we just don't know how it's going to progress. We have to have the ability to keep the business and the sport moving behind closed doors, because it might be like that for a while. Some events next year for us will be behind closed doors early. We'll be pushing for crowds. Chocolatito against Estrada is a good example of a fight that I would like to do at the Dignity Health, for example.
Love that place.
Yeah, so do I. I think for a fight like that as well. But there is a strong chance that in March, in California, you won't be allowed. So we're going to see how we get on this. The problem is, we've spent tens of thousands on stewarding and security to make sure we can try and maintain social distancing. Because if it goes wrong, it's really on us and the venue and the commission. So whilst it's great to have fans back, there is an extreme cost of policing it and making sure it's safe. So that's, but I think, obviously you've got Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell coming to Texas as well. Hopefully some other states will open up, maybe Arizona. Phoenix was a wild crowd when we went there for Chavez Jacobs. So we'll have to see how things open up.
So you're basically going to have to go back to Florida tomorrow for Triple G, then back to Texas here for Canelo on Saturday, back to the UK, and then back to Texas for Ryan Garcia?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to that fight, but I do have a family holiday booked in the Caribbean. So I'm trying to find a way to get from the Caribbean to Dallas and then back again without being slung out of either country. So I might have to watch that one on the app. So,
what do you think is the biggest fight that could be made next year that no one's actually thinking about?
I actually think that Saunders Andrade is a big fight. I know it's not a mega fight, but I actually think it's a big fight. I think you're going to get there's a lot of fighters at the moment that are going to be forced into taking a fight that they might not ideally want to take. I think that Beterbiev against Bivol is a fight that should happen next year. I think it's an absolutely tremendous fight. We've got Josh Warrington, hopefully will be announcing his fight with Kanzu next week, which is a tremendous fight. Then I'd like to make Warrington against Navarrete. I think it's a tremendous fight as well. I honestly think you're going to get a lot more fights. Even people are just under pressure, I think, to make bigger fights. The broadcasters want more bang for their buck. The fighters realise if they want big money, they have to be in real fights. Even not on our platform, but I think Berchelt against Valdez is a great fight. When you look across the divisions as well, Munguia, we said earlier, against Golovkin is a great fight. Virgil Ortiz is a great fighter. Difficult. I think Golden Boy are going to have a problem there, as Top Rank have with Crawford, in trying to get the opposition.
Do Crawford and Virgil.
Great fight. I'm not sure Virgil Ortiz will take that fight yet, but we were trying to get Danny Aryalusinov against Virgil Ortiz. Because Danny Aryalusinov is going to be another fighter that is going to be hard to match, as people realise how good he is. But the good news is I think there's a strong mentality in boxing right now that people are willing to take, even like at the lower level, as in the younger level. People like Ray Ford, for example, right? So we've got all these young fighters. Ray Ford says, step me up against anyone you want. And this week he's got a really good step up and he's on a week's notice. But he stayed in the gym, he stayed ready, because he's saying, I need to explode from the pack. You know what I mean? And the only way I do that is to be in a good fight, look good, and for you guys to go, do you know what, he's a good kid, that Ray Ford, or Ammo, or whatever it is, they've got to come out and make a statement. Because all those younger kids, we're about to find out if any of them are actually what we hope they are. That's when it gets exciting. Some won't pass the test, some will get better. So,
I have a lot of people asking me, is Dillian White versus Luis Ortiz a possible fight?
So, Dillian White is, Dillian White is very hot-headed, right? He's a good friend of mine. And when he found out that Povetkin wouldn't be ready for January the 30th, he went mad and wanted to kill everyone in the room. But then he said, well, let's fight someone else. I said, yeah, but he's only out for an extra 4 weeks. Like, in the grand scheme of things, we know you want the Povetkin fight. You must try and win that fight. Yeah, but I'm not letting him mess me around, blah, 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 blah. So Luis Ortiz was the first name that came up. I love the fight. There's 3 brilliant fights for Dillian outside of Povetkin. Luis Ortiz, Deontay Wilder, and Andy Ruiz. And he'll fight all of them. But for me, I do think he needs to handle business with Povetkin first and try and get that win and then move on.
You think that will happen by March?
March the 6th is the latest date.
March the 7th?
6th is the latest date. January 30th was the rescheduled date. Could be Feb 2027, but I think March the 6th is. I said, there's no point rushing the guy and then he's not ready. You might as well make a date that actually he's going to be ready for.
How much, in your opinion, of a step up, and I know it is a big one, but in your opinion, is this Luke Campbell for Ryan Garcia?
Massive step up, because he's never boxed anyone at world level. But he is a good fighter, Ryan Garcia. I mean, he's a very, very entertaining fighter with fast hands, but I just feel that Luke Campbell is... Luke Campbell, I thought he beat Linares that night, but it was very, very close. And his father passed away that week. His head was in another country. And obviously he lost to Lomachenko in a good fight, but he was well beaten. But, he showed levels in that fight. He's a world-class lightweight. I believe he can mix it or beat the top 5 in the world. It really comes down to how good Ryan Garcia is. He might be really good. He might not be very good at all. Or, that's a bit harsh, he might not be world level.
Were you surprised that they took this?
Very, very surprised. I thought, and I know I won't throw anyone in under a bus at Golden Boy, but I know some of them were surprised. Because it's not that they don't rate Ryan Garcia, but what I like about Ryan Garcia and Eddie Reynoso is they're backing it up. So you can talk shit and you can have a load of Instagram followers, but jumping in a fight like that is another thing. So they obviously believe. Eddie Reynoso is a very smart man. He wouldn't be taking this fight if he didn't think they could win.
You think the people at Golden Boy tried to talk him out of it?
No, I don't think. I'm not sure they've got the power to do that. But it wasn't that they said, "Oh, don't take the fight." But I think in conversations, I'm not sure that will be accepted. And it was like, it's on. And I was like, maybe as it draws closer, they've realised they've made a bit of a mistake.
So if Ryan does win, Eddie, what did I say about Ryan?
I'll give him massive props. Because he's a world-class fighter. And he's a superstar. That is one thing about the gamble. If he beats Luke Campbell, he becomes a real player, But don't forget, it's a final eliminator to fight Devin Haney. So don't be ducking. Devin Haney. This is an interim world title fight and a final eliminator to fight Devin Haney.
Speaking of eliminators and interims and everything, you teased dropping all the titles for Joshua Fury. Is that actually a possibility?
No, we want Joshua Fury to be for the undisputed heavyweight championship. That's always been the aim. But when I listen to people, it's like vultures is the wrong word, right? But it's close. And it's like, oh, big fight, big sanction fees, whoa, step aside money. It's like, whoa, guys. We're coming out of a pandemic where, you know, no one's particularly making money right now. We're doing shows that might lose money, we're taking big risks. But all I seem to be doing over the last 7 days is writing checks, right? In London last week, WBA, WBO, IBF, IBO. Merry Christmas to you. Right? Tomorrow night in Florida, IBF, IBO, Merry Christmas. This week, now WBC, WBA. Congratulations. Right? And it's like, yeah, but it's like, I'm in the wrong business. I should have a belt. I'm going to create my own sanction body and charge sanction fees, you know. No risk. Amazing business. So
You get to eat pretty well too.
yeah,
Good dinners.
but the thing is I respect the governing bodies and I respect the presidents, and belts do matter. We can all see it, and they don't really matter to fans, but they do matter to fighters, and they do have history. But if a fight like Joshua Fury suddenly turned around and went, we're going to make a statement here, no belts on the line, that changes everything. And the same way that promoters or managers or broadcasters will go out of business through the pandemic, so will governing bodies. If they don't just stay sensible, stay smart, realise we're going through a period right now.
Well, stay sensible.
Or be sensible. You know, but we're going through a period right now where people are taking less. You know, and some people are taking nothing, and some people are losing money. So, you know, yeah, it's not our intention to drop any belts, but they would. They'd both do it.
Eddie, how soon do you think is realistic? I know this depends on government restrictions and everything. But when would be the soonest, do you think, that a Joshua Fury fight could take place in the UK before a full allotment of fans?
We just don't know. I mean, really, if the fight's going to take place in the UK, they'd have to take half of what they could get.
I mean, the fighters.
Yes. So that's a tough conversation. And if we don't know if we're going to get a crowd, we can't even consider it in the UK, to be quite frank. But both guys would rather do it in the UK, and one of the two fights should happen in the UK. But I think the plan over the next couple of weeks is to get a deal agreed in its entirety and then go out and see where this fight can be staged.
What do you think about, I understand it's about money and the fighters have to be paid, just like the rematch with Joshua. What do you think the backlash would be when you pay that fight?
I think everyone would be disappointed, but I would just be honest again. I mean, I can't say, you know, ultimately I won't decide where the fight is. If you think that they should take half the money to do it in the UK, and in a fight that size, with everything on the line, I can't, you know, I'll defend them till, I think if it's 20 or 30%, I think they will do it in the England. They will take less money, but they'll become an amount of money where they're just, you know, my advice would be, guys, you're putting everything on the line, not just your belts, your health, everything. Go and make your money, you know. But in an ideal world, we'd all love to do the fight in the UK.
Just back to for a second. If you were to beat Luke Campbell, and then obviously becomes a mandatory for Devin Haney, do you think that fight is realistic for 2021? Is that something that can happen?
It has to happen next. The Zone have already said that's the fight. Golden Boy, no. I mean, I think the general feeling is, away from me and most Brits, that Ryan Garcia wins that fight, right? If that's the case, the Zone have basically already said, Golden Boy, Matchroom, that's the fight, you make that in April. That will be the next fight for both of them. But he's got to win. And that's You can't fight a final eliminator and then win and not fight the champion. What's the point? Why would you fight Luke Campbell otherwise? I mean, it's a dangerous fight. But he's fighting him because it's for the interim title and it's a final eliminator. So if you win that fight, fight the champion. Yeah.
But this is boxing.
Yeah.
Eddie, is there a rematch clause for Canelo Smith?
There is, but it has to be discussed in more detail, if that makes sense. So the answer is yes, but it would probably be subject to there being enough money in the pot and it being a great fight that everybody wants to see. This fight will be a great fight, like whatever happens. Depending on if a deal could be reached effectively, I mean, that's, I think that if the fight was a great fight, if there was enough money in the pot, you'd see an immediate rematch. Again, it all comes down to crowds and everything,
Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, break it down.
Well, Ryan Garcia's got to beat Luke Campbell. But in the event of Luke Campbell twisting his ankle in the fight and Ryan Garcia winning that fight, tremendous fight. Sells out the Staples Centre, 2 young studs. That's a fight. When we talk about YouTube boxing and all this cool stuff, that's the kind of fight that brings in a new generation of fans.
Speaking of YouTube boxing, what are your thoughts on the Paul brothers and their matchups with these world beaters like Floyd Mayweather? What do you think about that fight?
I think that's a joke.
Yeah.
I love Logan Paul. He's a really bright guy. But I don't blame him for fighting Floyd Mayweather. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. Every fight has to have a narrative, right? So when I did KSI Logan Paul, 2 biggest YouTubers in the world. Floyd Mayweather against Conor McGregor, the biggest MMA star against the biggest boxer. What the fuck is Floyd Mayweather against Logan Paul? What's the narrative of that?
How do you
One of
think
the best
that,
pound-for-pound fighters of all time against a 0-1 YouTuber. Well, that don't make sense, does it? And as far as Jake Paul's concerned, I think Jake Paul's hilarious. I didn't like what he said about Conor McGregor's wife. I think that was really disrespectful to me. And for me, that's the kind of thing you don't joke about. But he don't care. He's just trying to goad Conor McGregor into doing something or some kind of fight. But for me, some things you say, some things you don't. But
do you feel partly responsible for putting them on the sports stage like that?
No, because I think it would have happened anyway. But I think I set the trend, which
definitely.
In one way, it makes me feel really fucking good, and in other ways, makes me think don't do too much of it. I mean, I had an opportunity after that to do more and more and more. In fact, the Zone wanted to do Jake Paul against Anderson Gibb. I wasn't really looking to do anything that quick, but they got so many subscribers from that fight that they wanted to do another one. And I just think that if we don't start making great fights for boxing, those events will become more of a norm, and that's when it becomes a bit dangerous for boxing. So that's why I think fights like Joshua Fury, Garcia Haney, Crawford against Spence, we need to make those fights so that people realise that boxing's great. And I have no problem with those other YouTube stuff. Floyd against Logan, it's not for me. I have no problem. I'd do Jake Paul against KSI. It's fucking massive. Massive. You like that one, Mike?
I'm sorry?
Do you like that one?
Yeah, I love it. Great fight, yeah.
What do you think they both win this weekend? What do you think is the likelihood of, since it's Canelo, but what do you think the likelihood is of Canelo Triple G3?
I think from a DAZN perspective, it's always been why the problem started. That's the fight. But I think that if Canelo wins, then he will look at it and say, well, I'd quite like to get the other belts. So Billy Joe Saunders, I kind of feel like they'll want to move quickly to plot the next move. Do you know what I mean? So, and I think it will be Triple G or Billy Joe Saunders if they win. And some kind of talk about maybe even an interim fight somewhere in Mexico against Yildirim, because the winner will have to fight Yildirim if they want to keep the WBC title.
it's up to Canelo. So whether he loves and likes it or not, for the most part,
Say that again?
it's up to Canelo for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it always is though, isn't it? I mean, you know, yeah. Right, guys?
All right, thanks so much, Eddie.
Eddie, really quick on your book.
Oh, here we
If
go.
I buy your book, what am I gonna read?
You're going to read about being fucking crazy and just really being on a constant robotic journey to try and achieve.
Will it help me in my job?
I think so. I mean, and it's kind of like, it was like a counselling session where I'll just be very honest about what I think, my mindset about trying to win.
What it takes to win.
What it takes to win, what it takes to be successful. But then I wrote it during the lockdown and the pandemic, and it went a little bit soft in the end, where I started saying, you got to do this, but make sure you're happy. So the pursuit for success, but also the pursuit for happiness.
Thank you.
Wise words from the man himself, Eddie Hearn. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Only on DAZN.